This week on Within 6 Feet, we sat
Okay.
down with Dr. Hassel A. Morrison,
I'm good.
Vice
How you
President
doing?
for Student Life at St. Olaf. We got to know him a little bit better and discussed some of the recent racial tension on campus. For those watching that don't know, who are you?
Hello, my name is Hassel Andre Morrison. I am the Vice President for Student Life at St. Olaf.
And so, what does being the Vice President for Student Life entail?
Being the Vice President of Student Life entails quite a bit, Teague. It basically pretty much means that I'm in charge of a variety of departments that engage and intersect with students and student involvement in the student experience. And so sometimes you may find me, working on different initiatives and strategies within my departments or within my division to assist with student life and student outcomes. I may advocate on behalf of students. I may listen to students, and we also have a branch of accountability. And so there's a lot that goes in with student life. To better answer that question, in regards to what is student life, my role is basically to provide coordination and direction for the entire division, which includes Dean of Students Office, the Taylor Center for Equity and Inclusion, campus recreation and intramurals, wellness, Bunchard Commons, which is our student union, student activities, residence life and housing, public safety, parking, transportation, the Posse program, student conduct, counseling services, and health services.
So, basically, you're in charge of everyone, is what I'm hearing.
It seems like it. It seems like it, but a lot of it is making sure those. And again, I'm not doing all of this work at all. I mean, obviously, I have people reporting under me, and I'm working on behalf of them. And so these various offices have directors and they have staffing to do the work. And so I'm often when I hear successes about the work that we do in the division, I often acknowledge that the folks within those different departments help us be successful. Also, if there are concerns about any of those departments, I'm the one that I follow with that department lead, whether it's a director or dean or assistant dean. I follow up with them and say, hey, I'm hearing about X, Y, and Z. Can you give me some clarity in regards to what's going on in this area? And so a lot of times, students or faculty or parents or alums, if they have questions or concerns about any of those areas of responsibility, they typically go to the people that are in charge of those different departments. But every now and then I may get a concern or question about some of the functions of those departments.
How did you find St. Olaf and why did you choose to take the job here?
It's funny. So how I chose St. Olaf and how I even heard about it is I was recruited here in 2018. And so previously I was working at the University of Idaho, which is located in Moscow, Idaho. I was an associate dean of students there. Eventually I began to take on other responsibilities that falls under the dean's responsibilities because my dean of students had to take on vice provost responsibilities. And so we did that for quite a while. And so there was a search firm that was familiar with me, and basically that search firm just called me out of the blue and was like, hey, we followed you, and I know that sounds a little creepy, but that's what search firms do. They follow your career, and they said that, we've been in touch with you before, have this great opportunity, and would you be interested in it? And I was like, oh, okay. The only thing I knew about St. Olaf was the Golden Girls, right? I know everyone's reference. And so I looked up the institution, I learned a little bit more about it, and I was like, man, this sounds like a pretty good fit. The thing I liked about it the most, and what I think drew me here, I mean, the search process was great. They really did a great job of recruiting me and courting me and making me feel like I belong here. But also in the videos that I saw, I researched, I Googled, and I asked. There were a lot of people that I knew, not a lot, but several people that I knew that worked at University of Idaho that had an experience with St. Olaf. or they were from Minnesota, or they were familiar with Carleton. And so even, some of the Carleton people that I knew that worked at the University of Idaho talked very highly of St. Olaf, and so did the other folks from Minnesota. And so I researched it, and I saw, the way folks talked about this being a nice place and welcoming place, and just being here, it attracted me. Also, I'll be honest with you, I also learned about some of the challenges, and I was happy because I felt like, there's some work that can be done there. And so, because, I think sometimes it can be boring going to a place that's perfect. Actually, find me a place that's perfect. I'll give you $1 zillion. I don't have $1 zillion. And so I know for a fact that the reality is there's no place that's perfect. And so every college and university has areas where they can grow in. And so I knew that there were some challenges as well as some opportunities. And I knew there was a lot of positive energy here as well. So I said, why not go and try to be a part of something that you feel like that you can contribute towards and invest in. So I'm here.
That's awesome. So where did you go to college and what did you study?
So I did my undergraduate at Radford University. That's in Radford, Virginia. It is a liberal arts institution, roughly around 12,000 students. It's a public school. Then I got my master's from Virginia State University, and that's a research institution. Roughly at the time it was 8,000, maybe a little bit less than that. And and so I got my master's there. And then I got my doctorate from North Carolina State University, which is a large research-oriented public institution. In Raleigh, North Carolina. And so, by the way, at Radford, when I was working on my degree, I actually got my degree in media studies.
No, I'm considering switching my major to media studies, but we'll see. So what's your favorite part of your job?
My favorite part of my job is I would have to say, I know that's tough because I love every part of it, but I think the part that gives me energy, that's the most fulfilling for me, is interacting with students and also helping them solve problems or helping answer their questions. I like it when, just the random student just asks me the most random question, and we're meeting one-on-one, and we're able to have some really personable conversations, and it's you can start to see the student feel excited about the interaction. And I get excited too because I know how it is when coming to college or going to college, and you're 18, 19, 20, 21, you're trying to figure out the world, and all the students are smart people, but I just love someone was there to listen to me and to that I could confide in, that I could just network with or build a relationship with. And I appreciated that when I was a student. As a matter of fact, I'm still in contact with my mentor that I had as an undergrad. And so he's actually my professional mentor now. He used to work in student affairs. And so I enjoy interacting with undergraduates, and I also enjoyed working with the parents and the faculty. But when it's all said and done, the thing that gets my blood flowing is working with students.
We like working with you too.
Thank you.
What's your least favorite part of your job?
Wish that I had probably more resources to have more staff to support students. Also, I wish that I could, I have a lot of people within my division that they work extremely hard. And I thank them, I email them, I try to pat them on the back as much as possible. But I wish that either I could have more resources where we could have more FTE, more people because I believe there should be a balance with student to staff ratio. A lot of times on college campuses, people focus on faculty to student ratio, which is important. That's very important. And so the students spend a lot of time outside of the classroom. And so, I wish that we had more opportunity to give some of our staff a little bit more of a breather, and because our students are very engaged on this campus, and they love interacting with each other, but they also like interacting with with older adults that's been there and done that, and they seek guidance from time to time, and that's a good thing. I actually encourage that. I did it as a student, and it helped me navigate the college campus. So it came in handy when I had to write letters, when I needed someone to write letters of recommendation, and so on and so forth. So it's always good to connect with all the people within your community, whether it's faculty, students, or staff. But if I had to pick, I would say I wish that I had probably some more resources.
So what is your favorite building on the St. Olaf campus, and why?
That's tough. I would probably have to say the one that's offline now, Stingsley. I think that's my favorite one. I don't know if you've had a chance to. I just like the old architecture of it, and so it's something about buildings that were built in yesteryear. I like all the buildings. I think all the buildings look great, but I think that this is you can tell it's a very old building, just the way the architectural design is, and I'm just really fascinated by the different angles and the different thought that kind of went into that building, and so I'm hoping that one day that we can get that building back online.
So what's your favorite meal in Staff Hall?
So Staff Hall, my favorite meal in Staff, oh gosh, and I've eaten in Staff. I don't know if you knew that, but yeah, I've eaten in Staff Hall. I've actually had normally each year I take my family there and we eat dinner there a few times. This year we're not doing that because, we want to make sure the students are a priority there. And so, but I've enjoyed eating at the Staff, and I would say maybe, I'll be honest with you. I like eating, I like the pizza there. And so, especially when it's greasy. I know it's not the most healthy, but I do like the pizza there. I think that the pizza is pretty tasty, especially when the pepperoni is real greasy.
That was one of my favorites. So do you have any hobbies?
Yeah, I do have hobbies. Yeah, I need to get back into them. I've been so busy, I haven't taken out time to do any of my hobbies. But one of the hobbies it was so funny. I was actually thinking about this the other day. I was dusting off the old chessboard, and my oldest, she was in chess club, and when she was in school, and and she's never had the opportunity to beat me, and so I was gonna try to re-engage her in a game of chess. So that's I would say that's one of my favorite hobbies.
And do you have any pets?
Yeah, I do have pets. So I have a dog. He's a Bichon and Shih Tzu mix, and so his name is Bridger. And we, my girls named him. They were debating on the name, and we were crossing over a bridge, and then all of a sudden, one of them said Bridger, and everyone was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense." And so, we liked the name because it was different. And so he's a little fella. He's 1 year old.
Okay, so now I want to shift gears and talk about the more serious stuff that's happening on campus right now. So as a Black man in the St. Olaf community, are there any experiences that you'd like to share?
As a Black man it's interesting because I'm a Black man from the South and the Midwest on St. Olaf campus, which is a lot of complexities there, because if you've had experience of living in the Southeast or the Northeast, it's very different than the Midwest or the West. And so our experiences are very different. Black folks are so diverse. And so I would say that, coming from the University of Idaho, where the entire state of Idaho, when I was there at the time, was about 2% Black. And so in Minnesota, I see people who look more like me with black skin. And so being here on campus in Northfield, I get a chance to interact with a lot of different type of people. And so I would say that being black at St. Olaf, there's more talk and conversation about race than any other institution I've been at. This is the sixth institution I've been at. But I also understand that we have things have changed in our society as the years have come and gone. And so and so I would say that I personally haven't experienced anything that I would deem as negative towards me at St. Olaf or in Northfield. But I do often am concerned about society and how we deal with race, and also on our campus, how we discuss and talk about race.
So, St. Olaf's Peaceable Assembly Policy states, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, St. Olaf students, faculty, staff, and campus visitors may not block entrances or impede foot/vehicle traffic, disrupt teaching or administration, or amplify music or microphones that interfere with other uses of buildings and other campus space. I'm not saying we need to amend that or anything. Obviously, that's put in place to not interrupt teaching or anything like that. That was updated after the 2017 protests. But what I'm wondering is, what is the right way for us to protest, and how do we express our frustrations and ask for change?
It's funny you say that because I don't know if there's a right way to protest. I think that's kind of it's kind of an oxymoron, right? And so I don't know if it's the right way to protest. I think that I will say that, it's not, so I wasn't here when that policy was developed, but what I've learned about it, that there were faculty, students, and staff that were part of developing that, that policy. And just to let you know, we're doing an external review of our conduct policy and our policies. Dr. Eden is working with a consultant to do that. And so, and so at some point, I'm sure she'll revisit what a lot of the different policies within our conduct system. But as far as getting to demonstrations and protests, I think that there's a difference. I think that demonstrations, a lot of times that can be deemed as, it often seems a little bit more peaceful in nature or tone. In my experience of what I've seen demonstrations, protests can be peaceful, or they can be confrontational. And so personally, I don't have anything against students at colleges protesting. As a matter of fact, I don't have any problem with students or anybody protesting at any college. As a matter of fact, I think that some of the greatest things some of our greatest moments in history came out of protests. We wouldn't have we wouldn't have certain women in positions, or certain women even in colleges, if or women being able to vote, if it hadn't been for the women's suffrage, or either the women's movement. Same thing with the civil rights movement. I wouldn't even be sitting here talking to you right now as the vice president for Student Life if it wasn't for the civil rights movement. All of those were acts of protest. And so we can even go back further in history, where whites protested various things within the history of America. And so I think that, there should never be a fear of protests. I look at sometimes protests, there's opportunity. And we also look at the act of protest when we often, as a society and as a school, instead of looking at the act of protest, we probably need to look at what is the why behind the protest. Why have people reached a point where they feel like they have to protest? And that's what I like to focus on. I'm not afraid of protests. As a matter of fact, I protested when I was an undergraduate at my institution, and so, but for me, I think that, we should look at the why. As a matter of fact, we should, certain situations, we shouldn't even reach the level of a protest. If you have a concern about something, or you think that there should be some type of change, then we should be able to identify who needs to be around the table to talk about those changes, and determine what we can come up with to come and maybe strategize around it to see what's possible, and work toward action. And so oftentimes I've found that when people protest, I'm always thinking about, well, what led up to this, because I wanted to know that people sit down to talk and to learn how things can be changed.
Have there been meetings about the protest thing that has occurred? Have you guys talked about Olaf culture and that kind of stuff?
Yes, there's been a lot of conversations with students, with the Board of Regents, within PLT, with faculty. I would say that even the student group, OAI, the most recent demonstration was led by OAI in collaboration with Bruce King, and so they organized that demonstration. And so I think Bruce King has even talked to OAI and some members of CUBE, after that demonstration. And so, and OAI and CUBE have also had a conversation after that demonstration. And so, yeah, there's been a lot of conversations around, some of the things that came out of that demonstration that happened this past Friday.
Yeah. And then do you have anything else you'd like to say to the campus? Just that's my last kind of broad question for you there.
I've worked in higher education for over 20 years, and I've been a scholar practitioner. I think that we all could probably agree that in American society, there are a lot of institutions, colleges and universities, that have had some racial undertones, or some racist origins. And I hate to use that word because, but if you think back to it, there were times when, and I go back, there were times when I could not have gone to certain colleges. There were times when Blacks, when BIPOC people wouldn't even have been admitted to certain colleges. So to deny that history, or to say that there's not a history of racism in our higher education institutions would be telling a lie, because we know for a fact that there were many colleges and universities that denied BIPOC people to even be a part of colleges and universities. Also, there are several colleges and universities that were built by slave labor or indigent servant labor. So once we start talking about, the racism behind that, as well as, the economic disadvantages of some of that, when we think about, people doing labor for very little wages. And so, and even if we go back to the topic of women, sexism in higher education, where there are some colleges where women majored in nursing and men majored in engineering, because women couldn't be engineers to some people. That was some people's perspective. So when you think about the history of higher education and look back at some of these institutions, and you think about where your own college is, you have to ask yourself, over time, has your college done the work that needed to be done to answer or respond to some of those injustices? And so you have to ask yourself the question, how well does a college or university recruit BIPOC students? How well does the college or university recruit BIPOC staff? How well do we retain those individuals? Do we put them in positions of power? Do do we support them when they arrive here? And so those are really good questions to ask. And then you also have to look at your institution, because every college and university can get this data. I mean, you can look at how many BIPOC faculty and staff are there, but how many of them are on tenure track? How many BIPOC faculty are on tenure track? Because in order to be a chair, you have to have tenure. In order to be a associate dean, you have to be a chair. And so those are tracks towards power. And so then you ask yourself, as far as like oftentimes when I look at colleges and universities, I also look at, what has been the race and the gender of their presidents, what does that look like? And so you have to ask yourself these questions about, we know that we know the historical context, of privilege and racism, but have we took a look at how our systems have sustained themselves through the years, and have we responded to some of those concerns of privilege or racism? And so I think that every college should take a look and do an assessment of, what have they done? Because it's more than just recruiting a couple entry-level staff members, BIPOC staff, or is more than recruiting BIPOC visiting faculty or recruiting a few students here or there. It's how are we positioning these folks to transition into the college where they feel like they can stay and they feel like they're supported and can leave proud of where they've been, but also how can we reflect the equity and inclusion and diversity that we talk about. When you go into the classroom, do you see a tenure track professor in front of you teaching a certain discipline? When you see someone talking and representing the college, whether it's the provost, a dean, an associate dean on the academic side of the house, or a president, do they represent, BIPOC people? And not to say the entire college or a university needs to be BIPOC, but I think that we live in a global society. And so I think we've reached a point where people expect to see difference. And I think people value difference because they feel like that, I tell students all the time, and people in general, when you graduate, if you think you're going to work with people that just look like you, that have the same religion or the same belief system or the same family makeup, that's just not the reality of the world. And so when people come to college, I think they want to immerse themselves into difference, into variety, because they want to be prepared for a global society. And so when they go to class, they want to learn from a Black faculty person. They want to learn from someone from the LGBTQ community. They want to learn from a woman. They want to learn from someone that's different from them, because that's just the way the world is. You're going to be interacting with so many different types of people. And I'm not saying all students think this way, but there are a lot of students that just want to immerse themselves into just difference because they want to prepare themselves as much as possible to be their best competitive selves, because it's more than just going to class and just learning the curriculum. It's the experience, the holistic experience that people get when they interact with people that's from different backgrounds, that's from different nationalities and different religions and different belief systems and different economic statuses. And that's something that I definitely valued as a student. I appreciated it more after I graduated because I saw how I benefited from it, because I'm able to talk to anybody and navigate all different types of people and neighborhoods and communities, because I immersed myself into diversity and it was available for me. And so as a college, we have to just continue to make sure that we are correcting some of the history that we have. We can value tradition and we can honor tradition, but we can also create new tradition, and we can also set up different infrastructures to make us progressive and more current and more modern, so that our students are getting the best college experience that we can give them.
If you'd like to reach out to Dr. Morrison, you can send him an email at morrison@stolaf.edu. He's more than happy to talk with you.